Hi, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Evaniel. That's how you say it. You say it Evaniel, not Evangeli or Evaniel. It's Evaniel. Like you took Evan and Daniel and combined them. Please don't say my name wrong. Anyway, welcome to my channel. I appreciate you tuning in. And this is my first ever YouTube video that I've made for YouTube. So, pretty pumped about that. Yeah, since we just hit 80 subscribers, I am pretty pumped, and I'd like to, start actually making stuff and make more stuff, lots of stuff. I want to make stuff, lots and lots of stuff. But to get started, I had an idea. So, if you don't know me, I love movies. I love movies, TV, film, all of that stuff. I love watching it. I love watching new stuff. And anytime I see a new movie or someone tells me to watch a movie I've never seen, I always put it on a list so I can watch it at some point. Because I want to consume all of it. I want all of the movie. I decided to take that little passion that I have of all this stuff and put it into a video. So what I did is I went to Walmart. I bought 3 movies I've never seen before, never even heard of, and I'm going to give you my rating on them, how I feel about them, and just basically what the movies are about. Just a note, there will be spoilers ahead for all 3 movies that I talk about, so if you plan on seeing any of these movies, don't watch the part where I talk about the story, or any of it, because I'll probably spoil it anyway. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the movies. So, the first movie that we're going to be looking at today is the movie 5 Feet Apart. And this is the movie I got from Target. So, the story behind this is I was at Target, and it was $5. And this is the whole reason I started this little video that I wanted to do. I had no idea what to expect from this movie, because I don't really watch, romance movies or, rom-coms or anything like that, so I had no idea what to expect. There is a lot to talk about with this movie, so I'm going to be going over the summary of the story pretty quickly, so yeah. So the very beginning of 5 Feet Apart begins with a monologue about human touch and how it's really important and how touching someone is so big and so meaningful.
We need that touch from the one we love, almost as much as we need air to breathe.
So after the monologue, we're immediately introduced to Stella. And Stella is the main character of this whole movie. She's a cystic fibrosis patient, and she moves basically from hospital to hospital and basically lives most of her lives in a hospital due to her disease. She's a very well-rounded, positive person. She's neat. She's literally clinically OCD, so that's cool. One other important thing to note is Barb is Stella's nurse, and Barb basically nurses her and helps her, as nurses do. Also, Stella is really interested in newborn babies. She'll just sit there and watch them as, in their, what is that called? Nursing cell? I think it has something to do with the fact that she doesn't have much long to live and her life's always on the line, so seeing new life is, nice to her and appealing, which is cool. I just found it funny. She was just staring at newborn babies all the time. So right after we're introduced to Stella, Stella goes and looks at said newborn babies. And on her way there, we meet our love interest and, second main character, Will. And Will is kind of a rebellious kind of guy. He's cocky. He's kind of an asshole at the beginning. He's an artist. He likes to draw. That'll be an important element later in the story. And he also has cystic fibrosis. Another weird thing to note about Will is at the very beginning of the movie, as Stella is passing by his room, he is letting his friends just have sex in his room. His, hospital room.
Hey, I gotta sleep on that bed, okay?
Wow. Which I think is really weird because it's never touched on ever again. He's just yeah, they're gonna have sex. Wow. So also while Stella is on her way to this baby chamber, we're introduced to another character, and that character's name is Poe. He also has cystic fibrosis. That's pretty much all the characters in this movie except for Barb. Poe is the best friend to Stella. Poe is a skater kid, which is pretty awesome. He's gay. He likes men. Nothing wrong with that. And he's also really cool. I really like his character. He's my favorite character. But we'll get into that later. So once she passes all these characters and they're all introduced, it's immediately clear that Will has something going on with Stella. Like, he likes her immediately. Like, he follows her to this baby chamber, and this is where their first interaction happens. And their first interaction does not go very well. They kind of just insult each other. Stella says this.
I like sex. I like sex. Sex is fine.
She likes sex. Stella likes sex. That's what we got. And they have this really weird interaction that is interrupted by Barb, where Barb is like, hey, you guys got to be 6 feet apart. And they're like, whoa. And then they're like, okay. And then they leave and they get their name and it's whatever. So that night, Stella is on the phone with her friend. And as she's just chilling, she looks out her window and she sees Will just chilling on the roof. And Stella's like, oh my God, why is he up there? So she runs up to this roof and she goes out there and he's like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, my lungs are toast. I'm gonna die. And she's like, what? So Stella goes back to her room, and while she's in her room, she thinks about that rooftop interaction they had, and it basically messes her up. She gets really controlly and OCD about it. Like, she wants to help him, but he doesn't care. One big part of Will's character is that he doesn't care. He basically wants to die. Like, he knows he's gonna die. He doesn't really care about anything. He's very laid back. He's just like, we're gonna die. Bleh. She runs over to his room and is like, hey, you need to take your meds. And he's like, no, why should I? And she's like, I need you to take your meds for me. So they have this basic agreement where he'll follow his treatment, he'll do his meds, he'll do what he needs to do, as long as he gets to draw her. And they agree. She's a little reluctant, but she agrees anyway. And as they're working through this, as they're doing this stuff, they start growing closer together. And as they grow closer together, there's obvious love starting to form here. Like, it's clear that they're starting to gain feelings for each other. So they go on their first date, and there's this big scene of note where they like strip half naked and just look at each other. And it's a big scene because they look at each other and they realize they have the same scars on their bodies, and they never get to show anyone their bodies, so it's like this big moment. So literally the next day is Will's birthday. And at Will's birthday, everyone is like, hey, I can't make it. Or like Stella's like, no, I'm not gonna be there. Or his friends are like, no, we're not having sex in your hotel room. Hospital. So basically, as they all cancel on him, Will's like, oh, I'm big sad now. It's all like a hoax. And Stella's like, hey, follow these balloons and you'll find me. She throws a big surprise party for him. It's a big thing, but the thing is, they're all together, and cystic fibrosis patients Poe's there as well. Love that guy. And so there's all these cystic fibrosis patients around each other, and Barb finds them and is like, hey, yo, what the hell? She then threatens to send Will to another hospital. Like, she's like, Will's gone. He's going away. He's going to jail. And on top of sending Will to another hospital, Poe fucking dies. He straight up just dies. And I was like, yo, I loved Poe. And then Poe went goodbye. And it was not fun. So after Poe dies, Stella, of course, being his best friend and all, freaks the hell out and is like throwing stuff, screaming, is just not having the best time. So she decides, like, after seeing that, is like, yo, I'm not living my life. I have such and such a time to live. I'm not going to make it. I need to live. She decides she's going to run to the city because she wants to see the city lights. On her way there, she finds Will and is like, hey, Will, you want to go to the city with me? And he's like, yeah, I'll go to the city with you. So they're running away, doing the romance thing, all that stuff. While they're out there, Barb finds out that there is a new lungs for Stella ready to be used. So she texts Stella. She's like, hey, yo, where the hell are you at? You have new lungs. We can help you, save you. And she ignores it because she's doing love stuff and she's walking and living her life. So the two lovebirds that are running away from Stella's health end up at this big pond with the bridge. And they're messing around, they're having fun on this ice, sliding around, doing all that fun stuff. At this point, the hospital's freaking out because they know they have lungs and they can't get a hold of Stella, which Will has no idea any of this is going on. Will's mom is like, yo, I'm gonna text Will. And they text Will and they're like, hey, Stella's got new lungs. You need to bring her back because she's gonna die. And he's like, what? So they start freaking out. Will's trying to get her to go. So Will starts to go away. And then Stella falls off this bridge. And she falls and just slams into the ice. She falls to the ice and she's just going under. She's, losing her life, dying and shit. Will runs over there and starts trying to get her out, sticking his hand in there, getting her. So she's, drowning. then all of a sudden, Will's hand just goes right in there, grabs her, and pulls her out. Help! So the ambulance comes and gets them and then rushes them back to the hospital. And Stella's like, I don't want the lungs. I want to be with Will. I don't want the lungs. And Will's like, you need the lungs. Get the lungs, you stupid idiot. And so she gets the lungs. And while she's recovering, Will's like, hey, I want to do something nice for Stella like she did for me. So he sets up this whole elaborate plan where he sets up a bunch of lights right outside of her like hospital like room. And so they open the windows and this man turns on a huge array of lights and there's just a bunch of lights outside of her window. So they're like the lights. She's like, she found the lights. And he calls her and he's like, hey, I have to go. I love you. Goodbye. But in the end, he ends up walking away and he's never seen again. And it's kind of up in the air whether he died or just went to another hospital, got new treatment. It's just kind of up in the air. And the very end of the movie is ending with a monologue, the same monologue that happens at the beginning, just with a whole different meaning.
But I never understood the importance of touch. His touch.
Okay, so I know that was a lot, and I wanted to now give my opinions on the movie and everything I thought about it. I actually thought this movie was pretty good. It wasn't my favorite movie of all time. I didn't think it was an incredible masterpiece, but I did think it accomplished what it set out to do. It was probably, one of the better movies. It's the best movie that I watched out of these three. However, I did have a couple issues with the plot and how the characters work. One of my biggest problems with this movie was the characters, especially Will's character. So right off the bat, Will is an unlikable character. He's just a dick. Stella's a very nice, neat person. She's positive, she's happy, and then we meet this just asshole. He doesn't care. He's, a dick. He was supposed to be this rebellious kind of guy, but I kind of got that, but not at the same time. I was just a little, I also want to talk about my favorite character in this entire movie, Poe. Poe is literally the best character. I'd kiss him. One thing I didn't like about Poe's death, though, is that his death was kind of undermined. So, yes, there's a scene where, Stella freaks out. She's freaking out. She's sad and stuff. But right after that, she literally just goes and thinks about herself. Poe is completely just off. That's it. Because she wants to go see her stupid city lights and live her life. But, Poe just died. Give it some time. I feel like it'd have been cool to have a scene where they were all in the hospital and the hospital was just stagnant and silent because of Poe and how everyone was affected. She could go to the newborn baby room and everyone's just kind of moping. I think that would have added a lot more than just oh, he's dead? Man, that sucks. I'm gonna go see my lights. I'm gonna go to the city now. In conclusion, this movie really doesn't do anything different than any other romance movie. It literally says on the back of this, a genuinely moving and intimate moment between the star-crossed protagonist that evokes a similar scene from The Notebook. It doesn't do much different other than The Fault in Our Stars or The Notebook. It's just another one of those movies. Same, similar premise, same two star-crossed lovers. Overall, I'd give this movie about a C+. It does what it does. It's nearly a B, nearly something I could watch over and over again, but it's, a simple movie that accomplishes a simple premise. And overall, not a terrible movie.